Hi, I'm Alex, and I've always loved the idea of traveling to new places. There's something magical about exploring the unknown, meeting people from different cultures, and trying to communicate in a new language. But let me be honest, my English, not great. In fact, when I first arrived in New York City, I was completely lost in this story. You'll follow me as I navigate my way through the challenges of being in a new country with limited English. Along the way, I'll learn important phrases, make a lot of mistakes, and discover how to communicate even when words fail me. So, if you've ever felt nervous about speaking English, you're not alone. Let's dive into my adventure. I had always dreamed of visiting New York City. The energy, the lights, and the endless possibilities, it all seemed so exciting. But as soon as I stepped out of the airport, reality hit me. My excitement quickly turned into confusion. There I was, standing outside JFK Airport, holding my phone and staring at the directions to my hostel. The address was clear, but the instructions, not so much. The map was a maze of streets, subway lines, and landmarks I'd never heard of. I took a deep breath and tried to calm my nerves. "Okay, Alex," I said to myself, "you've got this. Just follow the directions." But it wasn't that simple. The app kept switching between languages, and I couldn't make sense of the English terms. I felt lost before I had even started my adventure. Around me, people rushed by, speaking in rapid English or other languages I couldn't understand. It felt like I was the only one standing still in a city that never stopped moving. I decided to try the airport's information desk. A friendly woman greeted me with a smile. "Hi, how can I help you?" she asked. Her words were clear, but my brain froze. After a moment, I managed to mumble, "A hostel." "This address," she looked at the screen of my phone and nodded. "You need to take the air train to Jamaica Station, then transfer to the E-subway line. Get off at 42nd Street. Your hostel is just a few blocks from there. Air train, Jamaica. E-line." My head spun with all the new words. I nodded politely and walked away, pretending I understood. As I left the airport, I felt a mix of excitement and frustration. This was just the beginning, and I already knew one thing: navigating. This city was going to be harder than I thought. I stepped outside the airport, clutching my phone like a lifeline. The fresh New York air hit me, but it didn't do much to calm my nerves. The directions I had received from the information desk sounded straightforward when she said them, but now they felt like a puzzle I wasn't equipped to solve. I opened my translation app, trying to make sense of the words air train and Jamaica Station. The app gave me some vague definitions, but nothing that made me feel confident. I stared at the signs around me, hoping for a miracle. "Okay, Alex," I muttered to myself. "You've got to ask someone. You can do this." I spotted a man standing nearby, scrolling through his phone. He seemed approachable enough, so I took a deep breath and walked up to him. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound calm. "Can you help me?" The man looked up and gave me a small nod. "Sure, what's up?" I hesitated, my mind blank for a moment. Then I held up my phone with the hostel's address. "I need to go." "Here?" I managed to say. He glanced at the screen and nodded. "You need the air train. It's over there." He pointed toward a sign I hadn't noticed before. "Thank you," I said, grateful, but still unsure. "Air train, ... What next?" "Oh, right. Take it to Jamaica Station, then get on the E train. It'll take you into Manhattan. I repeated his words under my breath, trying to commit them to memory. Air train, Jamaica Station, E-train. It felt like a lot to remember, but I didn't want to bother him further, as I followed his directions to the air train entrance. I couldn't help but feel both nervous and proud. Sure, I hadn't fully understood everything he said, but I had managed to ask for help, and that was a victory in itself. The air train ride was smooth, giving me a chance to gather my thoughts. I stared out the window at the unfamiliar cityscape, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. I rehearsed what I might say next, repeating phrases like, "How do I get to ... and can you help me?" Under my breath, arriving at Jamaica Station, I was immediately overwhelmed by the noise and movement. People rushed in all directions, and the signs seemed endless. I realized I would need to ask for help again. Spotting a woman waiting near a ticket machine, I approached her cautiously. "Excuse me," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Where is the E-train?" She smiled and pointed down a corridor. "Just follow the signs that say Manhattan, you'll see it." "Thank you," I said, feeling a bit more confident. This time, as I headed toward the E-train platform, I realized something important. I was learning. Slowly but surely, I was figuring out how to navigate this new world, one conversation at a time. The platform for the E-train was crowded, filled with people who seemed to know exactly where they were going. I clutched my phone tightly, repeating my destination in my head. 42nd Street. The train arrived with a loud screech, and everyone surged forward. I followed, hoping I was doing it right. Once inside, I found a corner to stand in and tried to focus. The map above the doors showed the stops, and I carefully counted how many stations it would take to reach 42nd Street. 5 stops, I whispered, as if saying it aloud would make it easier to remember. At each stop, I heard announcements echo through the car. They were in English, of course, and too fast for me to catch. But I could pick out a few key words, like the names of the stations. It was enough to reassure me I was on the right track. When the train finally pulled into 42nd Street, I felt a wave of relief. I stepped out onto the platform and into the chaos of a busy subway station. There were people everywhere, rushing past me in all directions. I stood still for a moment, trying to find my bearings, the directions I had memorized. From the map ended here. I needed to figure out where to go next. Above ground, the city buzzed with energy. Cars honked, people talked on phones, and bright billboards lit up the street. It was incredible, but also overwhelming. I decided to take a break and walked into a small coffee shop on the corner. The smell of freshly brewed coffee was comforting, and the warm interior felt like a safe haven from the bustling streets. At the counter, a young woman greeted me with a friendly smile. "Hi, what can I get?" "For you," her question caught me off guard. I wasn't ready to order anything. I was just looking for directions. "I need help," I said, feeling my cheeks flush. "Sure," she said, her tone encouraging. "What do you need?" I showed her the address on my phone. "I'm looking for this place," I explained. She studied the screen and nodded. "That's not far. Go straight down this street for 3 blocks, then turn left. It'll be on your right." I repeated her instructions, trying to visualize them in my head. Straight 3 blocks, left, right. "Exactly," she said, giving me a thumbs up. "Thank you so much," I said, feeling a bit more confident now as I stepped back outside. Her directions seemed simple enough. I started walking, repeating the steps to myself like a mantra. 3, blocks. Maybe, just maybe, I could do this. The walk to the hostel was easier than I expected. As I followed the woman's directions, I began to notice the details of the city around me, the towering buildings, the street vendors selling everything from pretzels to souvenirs, and the hum of conversations in countless languages. It was overwhelming but also thrilling. When I turned the last corner, I spotted the sign for my hostel. It was small but welcoming, with colorful flags from different countries hanging outside. My heart lifted. I had made it. Inside, the lobby was buzzing with activity. A group of travelers chatted in a mix of English and other languages, and a receptionist stood behind the counter, typing on a computer. I waited my turn, rehearsing what I needed to say. When it was my turn, I stepped up to the desk. "Hi, I have a reservation," I said, trying to sound confident. The receptionist, a cheerful guy with a name tag that read Ben, smiled at me. "Welcome. What's your name?" "Alex," I replied, handing him my ID. He typed for a moment, then nodded. "Found you. You're in room 204. Here's your key card." As he handed me the card, he added, "There's a common room downstairs where you can meet other guests. We also have language exchange nights if you're interested." "Language exchange?" I asked, intrigued. "Yeah," he said. "People from different countries practice speaking with each other. It's a great way to improve your English or any language, really." "That sounds interesting," I said, unsure but curious. After dropping my bags in the room, I decided to check out the common room. It was cozy, with mismatched couches and a big table where a group of people sat talking. I hesitated in the doorway, feeling awkward, but then someone waved me over. "Hey, are you new here?" a guy asked. He looked about my age and had a friendly smile. Yeah," I said, stepping closer. "I'm Alex. I'm Liam," he said. "We're just chatting about travel stories." "Want to join?" I nodded, taking a seat. As the group shared their stories, I listened carefully, picking up new words and phrases. When it was my turn, I stumbled through a short introduction about my trip so far. The group was patient, helping me with words I didn't know. By the end of the evening, I felt more at ease. Talking with them had been easier than I expected, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in this experience. The next morning, I woke up feeling more optimistic. Last night's conversation in the common room had given me a small boost of confidence. I wasn't fluent, but I could communicate, and that was a start. After breakfast, I remembered what Ben had mentioned about the language exchange. I found a poster on the common room wall with the details. Language exchange night, 7 p.m., common room, all levels welcome. It sounded intimidating, but also like an opportunity I couldn't pass up. To pass the day, I decided to explore the city. Armed with a map from the hostel, I made my way to Times Square. The flashing billboards and massive screens were mesmerizing. But what caught my attention the most was the street performers. One group was singing and dancing, and their energy was contagious. "Excuse me," someone said, tapping my shoulder. I turned to see a woman holding a camera. "Could you take a picture of us?" she asked, gesturing to her friends. "Sure," I replied, smiling. She handed me the camera and posed with her group. "Say cheese," I joked, and they laughed. I took a few pictures and handed the camera back. "Thank you," she said, looking at the shots. "Are you visiting New York too?" "Yes," I said, hesitating before adding, "My first time. Your English is good," she said, ENCOURAGE. agingly, double quotes, not, Very good, I admitted, feeling a bit shy. She shook her head. It's better than you think. Keep practicing. Her words stayed with me as I continued exploring. By the time I returned to the hostel, I felt a little more confident about trying the language exchange at 7 p.m. The common room was buzzing with people from all over the world. I hesitated at the doorway, wondering if I should turn back, but then I saw Liam waving me over. You made it, he said, grinning. I thought I'd try, I replied, taking a seat. The activity was simple. We were paired up with someone and given a topic to discuss. My first partner was a woman from Spain named Alina. We practice English, yes, she asked, feeling a bit relieved that she wasn't a native speaker either. The conversation was slow, with lots of pauses and hand gestures, but we managed to understand each other. When I struggled with a word, she helped. And when she stumbled, I did my best to explain as the evening went on. I rotated through a few more partners, each with their own accent and way of speaking. It was challenging but also rewarding. By the end of the night, I felt like I had climbed a small mountain. Back in my room, I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time, I realized that learning a language wasn't just about memorizing words, it was about connecting with people. The next morning, I woke up feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The language exchange had shown me that making mistakes wasn't the end of the world, it was part of the process. At breakfast, I bumped into Liam again. Morning, Alex. What are your plans today? He asked, sipping his coffee. I want to practice more, I said, choosing my words carefully. Maybe go to a cafe, good idea. Are great for people watching and practicing small talk. Want company? Sure, I replied, grateful for the support. We walked to a nearby cafe that Liam said had the best pastries in the area. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and inviting, with the smell of freshly baked bread filling the air as we approached the counter. Liam encouraged me. You order this time. Just keep it simple. I nodded, my heart racing slightly. When it was my turn, I smiled at the barista and said, Hi, I'd like a coffee and a croissant, please. Of course, the barista replied, ringing up my order. That'll be $7.50. I handed her the money and said, Thank you. It was such a small interaction, but it felt like a victory. Liam gave me a thumbs up as we found a seat by the window. See? Easy, right? He said, grinning. Not so easy, I admitted, laughing, but better. We spent the next hour chatting about our experiences in New York. Liam had been traveling for months and had plenty of stories to share. I told him about my struggles with English and how overwhelming the city felt at first. You're doing great, he said. The fact that you're out here trying says a lot. Most people would just stay quiet and avoid the challenge. His words meant a lot. For the first time, I started to believe that maybe I could handle this after all. Later, as we walked back to the hostel, we passed a small bookstore. Liam suggested we go in. You should pick out a book in English, he said. Something simple, like a children's book. It's a great way to learn. The idea sounded strange at first, but as I browsed the shelves, I found a colorful book with short sentences and plenty of pictures. It was called Adventures in the City. Perfect, I thought. Back at the hostel, I sat in the common room and started reading. The sentences were simple, but I still had to look up a few words. Each new word felt like adding another piece to the puzzle. Liam walked by and noticed me reading. "Nice choice," he said. "You'll be surprised how much this helps." As I turned the pages, I realized he was right. Every little bit of practice, no matter how small, was building my confidence. As the days went by, I found myself settling into a rhythm. New York, once intimidating, had become familiar. I was no longer a tourist navigating the unknown, was someone who belonged. Little by little, the language no longer felt like a barrier. It was just another tool, like a key that unlocked doors to new experiences. One evening, as I was heading back to the hostel after a long day of exploring the city, I stopped to grab some dinner at a small restaurant. The waiter greeted me with a friendly smile. "Hello, how are you today?" "I'm good, thank you," I replied, surprised by how comfortable I felt. The waiter handed me a menu. "What can I get you?" I scanned the menu, practicing the words in my head before speaking. "I'll have the chicken salad and a lemonade, please." "Great choice," he said, jotting down my order. "Anything else?" I hesitated for a second, then decided to ask, "Could I have some bread with that?" He smiled warmly. "Of course, I'll bring it right out." As I waited for my food, I realized something. This simple exchange was no longer something that made me anxious. I had asked for what I wanted, understood the response, and felt confident doing it. When my meal arrived, I smiled at the waiter. "Thank you," he nodded. "Enjoy your meal." I dug in, savoring not only the food, but the feeling of accomplishment. My journey with English had been challenging, yes, but each small victory had brought me closer to the person I wanted to be. That night, after finishing my meal, I returned to the hostel and headed to the common room. I found Liam, and we sat down to talk about our days. "Hey Alex," he said. "You've really come a long way, you know? I can see how much more confident you are now." "I guess so," I replied, smiling. "I think I'm finally starting to feel like I can speak English without worrying so much." "I knew you could do it," Liam said. "It's all about taking it one step at a time." Those words stuck with me. One step at a time. That was how I had come this far. The next day, I boarded my flight back home with a sense of pride. Had not only traveled to New York and explored a new city, but I had also conquered something much bigger. My fear of speaking English. As I sat on the plane, looking out the window, I thought about everything I had learned. It wasn't just the language, it was the confidence, the connections with people, and the knowledge that no matter where I went, I could face any challenge. I didn't know what was next, but I knew one thing for sure: I was ready.